Story 1. No, I'm not surprised. How many lives did the company take with a 32% denial rate? Those are the souls we should be discussing. Story 2. Not surprised at all. It is hard to feel sympathy for someone who made millions of dollars by essentially sentencing sick people to death or to poverty. Story 3. I am not surprised. I am a healthcare worker. When I see people not getting help because of understaffing, crying because they cannot afford help, or literally saying I cannot afford to stay alive, I think of people like this. On the floor, we are told to deal with violence on our own. Now that the elite are being targeted, suddenly they are talking about security. Screw these folks. Story 4. I currently have United Healthcare. If I were able to cover my children and leave myself out of their bullshit, I would, but I am required to cover myself if I want to cover anyone else. I pay them several $100s every month for a service I cannot even use until I have paid more to my doctor to reach my deductible. Fuck him and everyone who helped him, every single health insurance company, and everyone who runs them. They can have sympathy once they have lost everyone close to them because their insurance would not cover necessary, life-saving operations. They make money on the misery of others and deserve the same sympathy that a black hole gives the stars it swallows. So no, I am not surprised in the least by the responses, and I happily contribute to that lack of sympathy. The only ones I have sympathy for are the first responders who had to clean it up. Story 5. I heard a caller on the radio discuss this. He said his wife died of cancer because of insurance denials. He quoted someone in the insurance industry who told him, "The American health insurance system is polite genocide of the working class." That will stick with me. American health insurance companies have contributed more than $120 million to politicians this year alone to protect their interests. The United Healthcare chief executive officer was on his way to an investor conference to essentially brag about the company's $32 billion in profits this year. Deny, defend, depose. Correction. I was wrong about United Healthcare's profits. It is not $23 billion but $32 billion. Story 6. His company denied coverage for my son's inhaler. I highly doubt he cared at all about the atrocities committed under him. Story 7. I have never wished a man dead, but I have read some obituaries with great pleasure. Clarence Darrow. Story 8. It is funny to watch the media tiptoe around the elephant in the room. The vast majority of people are perfectly fine with this man being harmed. They are clutching their pretend pearls as if this were a tragedy. Story 9. I think most of us want to say something that would get us into trouble. Story 10. Not surprised. Fun fact. The reward for information on the shooter is up to $10,000. That is not even enough to cover the average family deductible on most plans. Story 11. He died quickly, unlike people who were denied care. Story 12. No, because an insurance company decided my son did not need his bi-level positive airway pressure machine. His body decided otherwise and he died. He was 26. Fuck that dead man. Story 13. The only surprise I felt was that it took this long to happen. Story 14. The one-liner that explains everything immediately goes. Your claim for my condolences has been denied. Story 15. I will speak to it personally. My sister had multiple surgeries to fix a botched gallbladder removal. She spent most of her life in pain and died of a prescription drug overdose a few years ago. She worked as a nurse and declared bankruptcy twice because of medical bills, even though she had insurance through her employer. She spent many hours either fighting to get approval for a procedure or disputing bills sent in error due to double billing. Take my story and several million others like it, and you can see why no one has empathy for such a cruel system or those who lead it. I did not expect this comment to get so much attention. Thank you for the support. I would like to add that the people who work in the healthcare system are amazing. My sister was a nurse in the neonatal intensive care unit and personally saved many lives. I am glad her story could be told in some small way. Story 16. I have been surprised the reaction has been so consistent. For a country that is typically divided on a lot of topics, this feels like one we are all pretty united on. Story 17. After they tampered with my insulin, I am absolutely not surprised. Story 18. Every penny spent on his funeral will come from causing someone else's suffering. I do not support the killing of anyone, but I have no sympathy for him. If you helm a system where you can openly play God and hold others' lives in your hands for profit, and champion and profit from ways to more efficiently deny people the ability to pay for the medical care they need, then you should expect no sympathy from anyone else when they have a moment of playing God. The only surprising thing is that it did not happen sooner. Seeing how Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield already walked back the arbitrary limit on anesthesia they implemented, I make no pretense that it was murder. It was almost certainly an objectively good thing for the average person. That is damning of the entire system. Story 19. I currently have cancer and I have United Healthcare coverage through my employer. I have racked up over $1 million in medical debt from surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and immunotherapy. I thought I had pretty good coverage. United Healthcare denied my life-saving surgery and my radiation treatments because I did not seek a second opinion. I would have died had I waited, as my cancer is very aggressive. They said the surgery was considered elective and therefore would not be paying for it. You caught me, United Healthcare. That is sarcasm. I am genuinely very sorry that someone lost their life, especially as I am being forced to examine my own mortality. I have empathy for his wife and his children, but I am struggling to feel compassion for him because of how horrible his company is to its clients. If it truly was a hit because of denied insurance coverage, well, I get it. Fuck the American healthcare system. Story 20. This has been such a long time coming. I think many people feel a sliver of hope from this. Maybe they will take us seriously and the disparity will slow in its growth. At the very least, the ultra-rich whose profits were built by ruining this country might feel a fraction of the mortal fear we live with during every sickness and injury. Story 21. Years ago, I read a short story about a man whose wife died after being denied treatment by an insurance company. He joined an online chat group to cope and met a man who directed him to a dark website that offered a different way to confront insurance companies. Mayhem ensued until the government stepped in with a national health system to stop the killings. I rolled my eyes at the idea but still felt sympathy for the man's plight. Yesterday I felt the same way. The concept, it's only business, may not be the shield they want it to be. Story 22. Trigger warning for pregnancy loss. We had United Healthcare when I suffered a miscarriage that required an emergency dilation and curettage. Coverage was denied because the ultrasound technician was out of network and the procedure was deemed elective. As far as my sympathies go, that was elective and my personal fucks to give are out of network. Story 23. Not at all. I am surprised it did not happen during the Occupy movement and that it does not happen as often as school shootings. Story 24. The man was responsible for more American deaths than Osama bin Laden. I do not recall many people lamenting when he was killed. If anything, it seems many people are hesitant to celebrate Thompson's death. Story 25. A fool once claimed, I could shoot someone in broad daylight on Fifth Avenue and not lose any support. Today we found someone for whom that is true. Story 26. Honestly, no. Given that they have the highest denial rate and the chief executive officer's compensation went from $2.7 million in 2015 to almost $52 million this year, I am not surprised in the least. Story 27. Not at all surprised. Frankly, I'm more shocked it took this long. Chief executive officers in every industry have been exploiting poor people and buying our elected officials. The medical industry is one of the most barbaric examples of that. Story 28. In my opinion, don't feel bad. He didn't feel bad about all the claims he denied. How many people died under his watch? Story 29. Absolutely not. I am not saying I support murdering people I do not like, but I certainly do not shed a tear for those who had it coming. I do not care if he was personally nice. He ran a company that essentially extorted excessive amounts of money from people and only kept his end of the bargain when it was convenient for him. I oppose privatized healthcare and those who profit from it. I suspect thousands of people lost everything after his company said, "No, we are not paying." And while I do not think that justifies murder, I can see why it might drive someone to it. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Or, as people say these days, mess around and find out. Story 30. The poor cried, We are starving. There is no more bread, and we have nothing to eat. The rich man said, "Not my problem. You do not work for your bread." As if he had not snatched away the grain with his own greedy hands and created filling bread for his own overflowing mouth, the poor cried, "We are dying. There is no more medicine, and we are all ill." The rich man said, "Not my problem. You do not take care of yourselves." As if he had not bought all the medicine and raised the prices so high that even the gods could not afford them, the poor people stopped crying, and the rich man was satisfied. Until one night they came knocking at his door. Their faces were sunken, their flesh decaying, their eyes sightless. They were monsters of the rich man's own making. As they devoured his flesh, the rich man cried, "Please, spare me." The ravenous zombies said, "Not our fault. You fattened yourself for slaughter. This is not originally mine. I have seen it on several sites, and I am not sure who wrote it. I am reposting it because I feel it is very relevant." Story 31. I am not surprised. My insurance provider, HealthNet, denied therapy for my 2-year-old disabled daughter with Down syndrome. We pay out of pocket for everything. Care was too expensive, so we sold our home and are using the proceeds to help her. They can go to hell. Story 32. Wealth and income disparity is greater in the United States than in late 18th century France. Are you surprised that the working class applauds when misfortune befalls the wealthy? Story 33. With guns being easier to access than healthcare, the only surprise I have is that it has not happened much earlier. Story 34. One of the odd universal constants across the political spectrum in the United States is the hatred of medical insurance providers. No one has a story about how well their health maintenance organization treated them, but everyone has a story about how they were taken advantage of by one. Given the current economic and political tension, I am not surprised it happened, and I am not surprised that many people seem perfectly okay with it, with some even cheering. People have been pushed to the edge, and the last 8 years have essentially put the afterburner on many social and economic problems. Now we face 4 more years of utter chaos, and people are struggling to cope. Story 35. I have zero sympathy and am not surprised. Insurance carriers such as United Healthcare are for profit and make billions. Company executives are a large part of the problem because they are not in the business of healthcare. They are in the business of maximizing profits and incentivizing hospitals to provide the minimum care they will be paid for instead of the care that would actually help or save people. United Healthcare has had some of the highest denial rates, and its CEO profited from denying people proper healthcare, sometimes contributing to deaths. So yes, fuck him. Story 36. Sorry, I can't help with content that praises or advocates harm. Not at all. A person responsible for between 40,000 and 80,000 deaths per year over something as ridiculous as insurance deserves accountability. Story 37. I would be more surprised if a person with a middle or low income had sympathy for him. Story 38. I am honestly surprised it has taken this long for regular people to recognize the creators of their misery. Story 39. United Health's claim denial rate is 31%. United Health uses faulty artificial intelligence to deny patients medically necessary coverage. United Health Chief Executive Officer Brian Thompson received total compensation in 2023 of $10.2 million, including $1 million in base pay and cash and stock grants. United Health Group Chief Executive Officer Andrew Whitty received about $23.5 million in compensation in 2023. I am surprised there has not been more public criticism of Andrew Whitty. Story 40. I am surprised it took this long for a vigilante to come forward and seek their own justice regarding medical insurance. I will not pull the trigger, but I will not judge the man who did. People die because of chief executive officers like them. Families lose their homes to medical debt. They make callous decisions because they do not care. Story 41. I'm not surprised. Politicians and corporate media want us to be shocked and horrified by this. But that will not happen. Maybe a growing number of people view billionaires, chief executive officers, and other powerful figures as hedonistic nihilists. We shrug our shoulders and think of this as a kind of comeuppance. Story 42. He ran a company that profited by denying people life-saving care and was indirectly responsible for the deaths of thousands. Some people do not deserve mourning. What he did was legal but evil. Story 43. My only sympathy is for his family, especially his children. They did not deserve to lose a parent. However, if you spend your life profiting from the suffering of millions and promote the continuation and worsening of that system, the world is better off without you. You should not be surprised if someone responds with violence. There are dangerous people out there, and if you antagonize millions, eventually one may retaliate. Story 44. Not at all surprised. People are furious with the state of United States healthcare and the ability of the wealthy to protect themselves from consequences. If anything, I am surprised that there are more, but think about his family opinions then, yeah, kill his family, 2 opinions. Story 45. Sorry, I cannot assist with content that promotes violence. That person is responsible for serious wrongdoing and faced consequences. I hope this movement leads to accountability and reform. Hold wealthy people accountable because they can exploit others. Story 46. No, we burn and they burn with us. No one can be surprised, given the level of wealth inequality in this country. We are a selfish and violent society. This is the expected outcome. Story 47. No, shitty people who profit from the death and suffering of others should not expect sympathy. Story 48. This is the first murder I've seen reported in a long time where no one is questioning the motives. Story 49. Why do Americans resist supporting Bernie Sanders or other politicians who want universal health care? Why is that not the leading issue in elections? Americans pay more per capita for health care than any other country, yet have one of the lowest life expectancies among wealthy nations. As a Canadian, I am genuinely confused. Story 50. I'm surprised the Federal Bureau of Investigation became involved so quickly in the shooting of a wealthy man in New York. If he had been a poor black man or a middle-class white man, the Federal Bureau of Investigation probably would not have become involved. It highlights that there is a different tier of treatment for wealthy people in this country. Story 51. I think sentiment has changed over the last few years, probably since coronavirus disease 2019. In the past, if a death like this occurred, comments making light of it, saying they did not care, or even saying the person deserved it would be downvoted or placed in the controversial section. People took a more Hollywood approach to death. No matter how bad the person was, we should mourn, and no death was a good thing. But wealth inequality has ballooned. With reference to Hollywood, films like Joker and shows like The White Lotus reflect a turning against the rich and powerful not seen since the Great Depression. I do not think we are yet at revolutionary France levels. The rich still control much of the media and the news. The breaking point in France came when the media turned on the king after he tried to flee. With Trump back in power, things may get worse, and there will be much more division. Story 52. Not really surprised. I think, deep down, people want to celebrate good conquering evil, even if it happened violently. Health insurance is an industry that makes money by denying care to people who need it and letting them suffer. It is a truly evil industry. Given how much it affects people negatively, we should be celebrating his death as a victory for humanity. It is no different from celebrating the death of a brutal dictator or despot. It is about time chief executive officers feared for their lives a little, because we all fear for ours if we ever get a horrible sickness or injury and have to deal with the corrupt healthcare system in this country. Just know that every cent his family will pay for his funeral will be earned because of someone else's suffering. Story 53. Sending prior authorizations, denied claims, collections, medical bankruptcy, and prayers to his family during this time of grieving. Story 54. The insides of my eyelids itch from psoriasis that I cannot get medications for because my claims are denied unless I pay over $10,000 for a single dose to meet my outrageous deductible. I am not surprised. Story 55. When the leader of a company that denies about 33% of claims, many of which were probably needed, gets killed, why would anyone have sympathy? I guarantee he, maybe indirectly via policies, caused tons of death and suffering that did not have to happen. All to put more money in his high score. We should approach this with the same attitude we tend to approach children who get shot in school. Concepts of thoughts and prayers, now shut up about it. Story 56. People die of gun violence every day here. Why should we care about this one person more than any other? We do not even care that innocent schoolchildren get mowed down by guns, and we continue to let it happen. I am not surprised about anything at this point. I am numb. Story 57. I am not advocating anyone's death. I feel for his children because they would have no idea what their father did for a living or what a 33% rejection rate meant for his customers. Did this man ever mourn a customer who died because his company denied a claim or the medical procedure they needed? Story 58. Not at all surprised. Look back at the reactions when the Titan submersible completely imploded and killed everyone on board. Story 59. No. Why would anyone be? He made $10 million a year and had a net worth north of $50 million, sourced from the premiums of sick people who did not get any help paying for their health care. I do not care if his family is sad. They should be angry at him for being such a leech on society that he gave someone a legitimate motive to end him. Story 60. We are burned up and burned out. We have been force-fed reasons to be outraged and afraid since before the attacks on September 11, 2001. All our leaders have built exploitative empires on our backs and made us feel ashamed for asking for something to show for our work. The things we were told would help us, as long as we played along, turn their backs on us before the ink dries on our requests that they keep their promises. Frankly, I am surprised there are not more responses like this, but we remain preoccupied with fighting each other for our master scraps. Story 61. Have you ever seen a video of a giant turtle or a marine mammal that looks so happy and grateful after a diver cleaned off all the barnacles and parasites that were slowly killing it? It is like that. A dead parasite is a great thing. Story 62. Not at all. I grew up in the healthcare industry. My entire family worked in it. I am married into it and work in it myself. These people thrive on our suffering. They have monetized it. This man led the charge to bill customers outrageous amounts and then deny them care after taking their money. I am sure others will disagree, but I consider this man a serial killer and believe the assassin finally fired a much-needed shot across the bow on behalf of all of us who have been fucked over by the insurance industry. We have allowed shareholders and the wealthy to get away with far too much for far too long, and we are in need of our let-them-eat-cake moment. There are more of us than them. It is time we acted like it. Edit. I was flagged for saying give the shooter a parade yesterday, and I have seen much worse said the whole time. I do not want violence or death for anyone, and I am not calling for it here, but these people have crossed lines that should never have been crossed. Retaliation was always going to happen because of the path they chose. My praise of a man who finally stood up does not equate to a call for violence, and whatever administrator decided I needed a warning can eat my entire ass with a spoon. Story 63. Our society has been broken by billionaires and bought politicians. I am not at all surprised. We'll see what's next. Story 64. I'm surprised it does not happen more to chief executives in corporate America. There are some industries where entire executive teams wake up every day and go to bed knowing they have made the world worse. Consider the history of Nestle that circulates on the internet, DuPont and its forever chemicals, Purdue Pharma and the opioid epidemic, and ExxonMobil and its deliberate campaign to deny climate change. United Healthcare is a corporation whose entire structure revolves around calculating and bartering the value of human lives in a corrupt system they continue to finance by buying influence with politicians. I do not celebrate the death of Brian Thompson, but I have absolutely no sympathy for him or any member of his family. Story 65. If someone calculated how many deaths resulted from his career's worth of policies, I wonder what his personal kill count would have been. Story 66. Denying claims is the feature, not a bug. They keep their money without giving two fucks about your actual healthcare. I am not even pretending to grieve for the man who oversees a corporation that literally kills thousands of people every year to protect their bonuses and shareholder value. Fuck you all. Story 67. Why the fuck would I care that someone whose absurd wealth was built on being a vile human died? There is a reason why anti-villain entertainment is so popular these days. Often it depicts people like this receiving recompense for their greed. Story 68. The only backlash I have heard is that no one should be murdered. No one mentions the good deeds he did or the lives he saved. Imagine that being your legacy. Story 69. Anyone who has interacted with a health insurance company should at least be able to understand why people feel that way, even if they do not. Story 70. I understand he had a family, but he earned $10 million a year while making many of his customers, people who only wanted more time with their own families, bankrupt or dead. So I condemn him and anyone like him. Story 71. I had my gallbladder removed, and my insurance refused to pay for anything. The surgery was denied, as were the hospital stay, anesthesia, and any follow-up surgeries and visits for complications. The hospital had deemed the gallbladder removal urgent because it was inflamed and becoming infected. I was initially billed for $40,000. After several months, I was harassed multiple times a day by debt collectors. This was about a year and a half ago, and I still receive calls from debt collectors occasionally. I was 21 years old, unemployed, and had not continued my education when I had the gallbladder surgery. I will not pay those bills and will not answer calls about them. That insurance companies deny coverage for life-saving surgeries and treatments and then harass people who cannot pay is abominable. So no, I am not surprised by the lack of sympathy and by the glee some people express after someone killed a chief executive officer who directly harmed and killed an immeasurable number of people. American health care is a sham. Story 72. People shouldn't mourn evil. Choose humans over money, and you'll have my sympathy and my outcry. Story 73. It is sad that we have reached this point, but with corporate greed steering us, I believe this was a huge win for ordinary people. It sends a message to the corporate world that we will hold them accountable and strikes fear in the elites, making them think twice about wrongdoing. If our society had not been rigged by corporate lobbyists, we could have turned to elected officials to hold them accountable, but we know they are on the take. So we handled it ourselves, doing what had to be done. Enough is enough. Eat the rich. Story 74. Not really. If you have ever dealt with insurance in the United States, you will understand. I do not know anyone who has not been mistreated or jerked around by insurers. I have decent coverage, but I am currently appealing a bill for $10,000 because of an unspecified coding error that no one seems able to resolve. Story 75. No. You reap what you sow, and people are at the breaking point. I am only surprised this kind of thing did not happen sooner. Story 76. I work in healthcare with many United Healthcare patients. I do not advocate murder in the streets, but I have a hard time feeling bad for a man whose decisions have both directly and indirectly caused preventable pain and suffering for many people in the name of profit. I am honestly surprised something like this took so long to happen. Story 77. I have spent more than 20 hours a week for the past 3 years on the phone with insurance companies because of a cancer diagnosis at age 33 and subsequent fertility treatment. I am not surprised, nor is anyone who has had a sick relative, a sick child, or been ill themselves in America. This country is one big broken promise. Story 78. When I became pregnant with my daughter, my employer did not offer health insurance. I did not have health insurance because I was not married to her father. United Healthcare came to my workplace and gave a presentation about health insurance. I specifically said I was pregnant at the time, as were 4 other women there, and asked if we would be covered if we signed up for the insurance. They said yes. Later, I was denied coverage for my pregnancy because it was considered a pre-existing condition. My hospital bill was over $20,000 and I had to go to a low-cost clinic for prenatal care. My labor and delivery were a nightmare, none of which might have happened if I had been covered and able to choose a better obstetrician-gynecologist and hospital. Did United Healthcare really care? No. This type of thing is why some people say very unsympathetic things about the killing of their chief executive officer. It is because none of the health insurance companies care about us. They care about their bonuses. You can bet that none of the health insurance company executives have ever been denied coverage by their own companies, yet they will deny other people quickly and even use artificial intelligence to make some of those decisions. The health insurance industry in the United States controls our politicians, so it is no wonder we may never have any form of socialized healthcare. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.